week. We never know what it is because we just change it up. I'm Hillary.
I'm Davita.
We're the two Pilates Chicks. And welcome, Season 4, Episode 11.
Yes.
And we are talking about, and this has come up because both of us have, well, I have the teacher training program, and then you run your studio within the club that you're at, Brentwood Country Club, shout out. And so the realities of teaching.
Yeah.
That people go through teacher training, we come out, we're like, woohoo, teachers! And then the reality of what that really means can be a huge wake-up call.
It can. How to get started teaching, all the other things besides actually just teaching Pilates that we have to do as Pilates teachers.
Because I think people think that's all they're going to do. I'm going to go in, teach my client, it's going to be super fun, and then I go home.
Yep. And everybody's happy and dandy.
Yeah. No issues, no problems.
Yeah.
But in reality, and we'll talk about kind of where you teach, but let's kind of start with that moment of, you're a teacher now, you're going out into the world, it's super scary and exciting, and you're at the studio that you've been hired at or whatever, but you have no clients yet.
Yep.
So all of a sudden it's like, you have to have clients.
Yeah. So it's like, now what?
Now what? So that's kind of one of the realities is building that clientele, building your schedule.
Yeah.
And you can't be picky about it.
Yeah.
When you're starting out. And the reality is you've got to kind of take what comes at you, no matter what hour it is, and build that schedule.
Yeah. And that's an important thing for new teachers or teachers in a new space.
Yeah, like maybe you move to a new city, new town, new studio, whatever.
And having to just kind of take whatever there is at first.
Yeah, like you're the new person.
You're the new person, so you take whatever hours. If somebody says, I want to come in at 8 a.m., you're like, okay. If someone's like, well, I want to come
6 a.m.
Oh, yeah, 6 a.m.
That's what I started, 6 a.m.
I did a couple of 5:30s at one point.
No.
And
I think I had a 5:30 Tuesday, Thursday. I did.
Yeah, not so fun.
Not so fun.
The first time somebody no-showed on me for a 5:30, I said, never again. But I took it at the time because it was a client and I was a new teacher. Yep.
And then, so it can be, and I know it's hard because, you're just teaching. And I think there's also, especially with social media nowadays, there's this whole view of what being a Pilates teacher is.
It looks perfect schedule.
Just like, I'm da-da-da, but it's like the reality is when you leave, you could have that 5:30 client.
Yeah.
And then not teach again till 9. And then have a 9. And then not teach again till noon.
Yeah.
But then come back at night. I mean, it's like, because I just took whatever client the studio owner gave me, no matter what.
Yeah, and I did that too. For years. It really wasn't even until COVID lockdown that I started becoming more picky about how to take care of myself and my schedule. But for a long time, I did some double days where I would leave and come back to the studio.
Yeah, I mean, that was common.
Yeah.
Or if you taught at multiple studios.
Yeah. I'm just driving around back
Driving
and forth.
around. So that also is a reality. So I think that aspect of getting into a studio and having that perfect schedule, like, I only want to teach from here to here.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
I'm going to teach from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Perfect. Every day.
Yeah.
And nobody will cancel.
No one will cancel. Because that's another reality of this situation is the oh my God.
Cancellation,
rescheduling, clients being sick, clients going out of town, clients switching, wanting another day. That's all, you're managing that as well.
Schedule management. Yeah. Of not just our own schedule of like what we wish we want to teach.
But the reality of what is happening.
Yeah. Then the clients' schedules. Clients have lives. We all have lives, right? So things come up. People will cancel. There's annoying people that will late cancel a lot.
Keep charging.
Yeah. And we have to decide if we want to keep working with somebody, if they keep late canceling, if it's annoying, or if it's fine. And we're like, well, we have a cancellation policy, so that's where
you go. Yeah, and I think it's really, I think when you're building that clientele and you're figuring all that out and you're taking clients and then the schedule shifts, it's like that's the reality of teaching Pilates.
Yeah.
It's not like I woke up one day, and I know you have too, where you had 8 clients, and then by 8 a.m. you're like, I have 3 clients.
Yep. Your whole day blows
My
up.
whole day blew apart. It's like, and that's happened recently. I texted you, I'm like, what you doing? My day blew up. I'm at home. It's like,
yeah, and it happens.
It does. But I think it's like, that's another reality. It's like, it's not like a typical 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. It's going to change pretty often. Even like, so for me, I have a pretty consistent 7 to 2 or 7 to 3 schedule. But even within my like pretty normal schedule, like it changes all the time, and I'll have a huge gap here, and then somebody wants to come in later, and then, you know, lots of different changes. Even once you've built up that clientele, and even once you've built your schedule in.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point. I tell this to students all the time, is I have my schedule, and I think you did too before COVID, and I don't know if you switched it up, but I had my schedule, it's not quite there yet, but it's pretty close, where if everyone was in town, I wouldn't have the time for everybody.
Yeah.
But even if my schedule is full, I will take on another client if they're willing to, like, be flexible.
Right.
Because I can go, okay, next week, and I'll just look and I'll say, oh, that person's out, and I can slide them in. Because then there's not that stress of I only have this many clients, and 5 of them are out of town next week.
Right. And for some people, like you're saying, like when I had that schedule too, where it's like, if so many people that I'm like hoping somebody will cancel
exactly.
to have a little bit of
a little break.
And so then on some weeks, it's nice when some people are out of town, because you have a little bit of like a quiet down.
A recharge time.
Yeah. And then sometimes we have like a wait list, and then you'll be like, okay, well, these times are open this week. Would you like to come in?
And that's what I do. It's like Sunday I'll go, hey, this is open this week. And they'll go, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I think that also goes in when you're talking about you're hoping someone cancels, and so you can, that's when you can also think, oh, I've got to take care of all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
That non-teaching aspect of being a Pilates teacher.
Yeah.
Which is all of the stuff like, your scheduling, which we talked about, but if you're not the studio owner or you're not an employee, then you're taking care of payments. Mm-hmm. So kind of your finances, you're having to take care of those, as well as marketing yourself.
Yep.
Social media, that's a job, which we're like, is it time to, well, we'll just post whatever. But that's a job too. And so you've got all this stuff and that's kind of a new job.
Yeah.
That social media was not around.
We didn't have that.
We didn't have that.
Before, yeah.
No. And marketing was kind of like, unless you paid for an advertisement,
right,
there was no marketing.
Yeah.
Unless the studio you worked at paid to advertise in something.
Yeah.
Because we had to, like, when I first opened, I had to, as a studio owner, you know, do I want to advertise in that magazine? Is it worth it?
Right.
Am I going to get any clients? And hint, no.
Yeah,
Usually not. But yeah, you have to kind of think about all that. That's part of the realities of teaching now, too.
Definitely. Well, and what we were talking about before, like the realities of like, so you come out of your program and you're like, okay, now where are my clients? And it's like,
where did they?
Yeah. So like, okay, how do you start getting them? And so you go into a studio and you're the new person, you're given the whatever hours, but maybe the studio owner or business owner has a couple of clients that have been wanting a teacher. And so that's why they hired you.
Yeah. For like specific time frame.
For specific times and for these couple of clients. But then after that, it's like, okay, well, you were given these couple clients. Now you have to build your own clientele.
Yeah, like it's kind of, here's your starter kit.
Yeah.
Right. Here's your starter kit.
Yeah, if that. I mean, some studios won't give you anyone. Like there's certain major businesses that are like, okay, well, you're a new person. Okay,
go. Yeah. Like I said, in some, and they're bigger, you have to, and you're an employee, you have to be a salesperson. You have to go out and get your clients.
Yep.
And sell them on it.
Yeah.
Which I would be horrible at.
I hate doing that. I'm not good at it. I mean, the best marketing is always word of mouth. Like people that have
That's
worked with
where
you,
you're going to get the clients that stick.
And that's the best. And like referrals from other people. And that's what really, really works. And that's just the most authentic and natural.
And it's natural and it's authentic in the terms of, because usually those clients that are referral are going to fit well with you because whoever referred them obviously knows you.
Right, yeah.
And is like, oh, you would like this teacher.
Yeah.
Instead of just some random, I saw your ad in the newspaper.
Yeah. It's a weird cold call.
It's a weird
and sometimes that works too.
Yeah, but it's like, I think for a lot of teachers, they don't realize it's not just going into the studio, teaching your client, and then going home, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a situation where that might be it. In today's environment of Pilates teaching, is there?
Maybe like in a group class, if you're given a certain time and you come at that same time every day. But you're still dealing with people. You're dealing with late cancels. There's a wait list. I mean, there's probably...
And you're still probably having to do social media and still probably having to sell yourself a little bit to keep people in your class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't really think of any.
And you're still going to, like, think about the class before you go in and plan or get set and, like, ready.
That's a good point, too. It's like we didn't even have that, and it's like you can't just go into the... Now, let's caveat this a little bit. You can't, like, go in and just wing it. Like, I feel like even the clients... Like, if it's a new client, obviously... I'm going to prepare the session for a new client to see how they move, to see if they have issues, whatever it is. And then those clients that we do have, we might have something in our brain that we want to, like, go with. Yeah. So we don't walk in going, I don't know, let's do this today. It's kind of like you have some sort of, like, I always have a plan.
Yeah,
to assess.
And some people don't, like, I know some people like to plan, like, exercise by exercise and then adjust as they see their client that day. Some people don't like to do a very set plan, but they have an idea of what this person needs because you've worked with them before.
You know their body.
Like, and I tend to do that. Like, I think about the person beforehand, like the night before. I look at my schedule. Who am I teaching tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. You have something in your idea. Yeah, so you're working from home.
Yeah. So that's another, you're not just teaching the person. There's other aspects of teaching that you have to do.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, when we talked about the sales aspect, and we'll kind of go deeper into it, is that whole, like, where you are teaching, what your responsibilities are, which we kind of touched a little bit on. Like, are you an employee?
Yeah.
Are you a studio owner? Mm-hmm. Are you just an independent contractor or someone that rents space?
Right.
I mean...
These are all very different scenarios, different responsibilities in each one.
As a teacher. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I almost think, I mean, there's pros and cons to each.
There are, yeah.
Because, like, for you can speak for this because it's the environment you're in with being, you know, the teachers that are in your studio at the club are employees. Mm-hmm. So there's pros and cons to that.
Yeah. And we used to be contractors, so I had that experience.
And did that change when the California law changed?
Just before it,
Just before?
Yep.
So it was probably due to that?
It could have been, yeah. And there are pros and cons to both things that I experienced myself. And then being in charge of the department, like in charge of the studios, I have more responsibilities through that. Mm-hmm. And which there, again, are pros and cons. Like, I like having some of those responsibilities. And I like, personally for me, I like some of these other realities of teaching because I like to think about other things besides, I'll say, quote, like just teaching. Like, I like these other things. But I think a lot of people come into teaching not realizing these other realities, and then getting overwhelmed or frustrated or like, ugh.
Or maybe it just wasn't, they didn't, like, I feel like sometimes people might think teaching Pilates is easy, that you do not have all this responsibility, that you just kind of go in and teach. And so I think the reality, they're like, wait, I didn't think it was actually work.
Right. Well, people see those social media posts and you see the, like, fit influencer people and their day looks so fun and they work out and then they teach their person. Yeah, perfect little cute outfit. So there's this idea of what we think it'll be. And then even if we're not like influenced by that stuff, there's like this idea, you're in your program, you're doing all these exercises, you're so focused on Pilates,
learning.
And that's just what you're thinking about. I'm going to teach these exercises. People will be interested. They want to know all these things.
Yeah, they'll love it.
Yeah. And there's all these other things that we need to be aware of and take into consideration.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you learn them as you go in terms of the different places you do teach. And I always tell people when they go out of teacher training, because I think it's great when people want to have their own studio. But I also think right out of teacher training, not the best idea.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you haven't had a taste of all these different environments. So you don't really know what you like, what you don't like, what works for you as a teacher, what doesn't work for you as a teacher.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to get kind of your feet wet in different, like in a Pilates studio that's all they do, right? Or in a fitness center, or in group classes, or and seeing
PT
kind
clinic,
of PT clinic,
different avenues to see like what you want to build or what you think works. And yeah, like you're saying, what doesn't work. That's a very helpful thing to see.
To know, because what if you get in a situation where you're like, oh, this is not what I want to be doing in terms of my teaching.
Yeah.
But I think, and you, because you and I were kind of in the same situation, like with the fitness centers and the club, because we're both taught private clubs.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, your clients are there.
Yeah, you have a closed market.
You have a closed market to market too. But also you have different politics. You have different kind of ways as a company it's run.
Right.
So there's all these different, so it's kind of like, does that work? Does that not work for that person? For me, it worked. I was fine. Because it was like you. It's like I had a studio, but I could walk away at night and not be responsible, really. So it's a different kind of, you didn't have the overhead rent.
Right.
Which is super nice.
Which is a huge thing. And that, like, for me, during COVID, I could walk away from the studio.
And not have to worry about paying rent. Not have to,
And know that I can walk back in 18 months later. And so it's huge.
Yeah, because that's like, and I think Kimberly, my friend, she listens. Hi, Kimberly. You've talked to her because y'all had a conversation. But yeah, it's like, that's what has stopped her. It's because
she's in a similar place.
Very similar. She's been there for 11 or 12 years now. And yeah, she's like, I don't know if I'd want the, having to pay rent and having the overhead and having the bills. And, she runs the program. She hires and fires the people there. And, yes, she has to get approval if she wants something. But...
Yeah, so you can, like, do you want to have a manager? Do you want to be the manager? Do you... And some people say, I want to be in charge. You're like, do you actually?
Do you really? I don't know if you do.
You want all these other things to think about.
Because that's one thing. I don't think I would have opened a studio if I hadn't been in the position like you're in. Because I did payroll. I did hiring and firing. I did scheduling of classes and stuff. So I had that aspect of it. So when I opened my studio, it was a little easier to know the realities. Although, like, the property taxes and all of that was like, what?
Whole nother thing.
Thing. But the realities of teaching, it's like as you get deeper and deeper into it, can get more and more intense. And it's just not a 9-to-5 job.
It's not, It's super varied, super variable. You can't just expect to have that perfect schedule, maybe ever.
I think you can get close.
You can,
But then it will change.
It'll change. And, like, the second you feel like you've set your clientele, you have your book of clients, you have your schedule, and then something changes. Somebody needs to change because of their new job or their kids, whatever. And there's always something.
So I think you have to have that. And I'm not that person. Like, I'm not good with change. I like to have a plan.
Me too. Yeah.
But in my teaching, I'm like you. It's like, ooh, they canceled? Okay. That means I can blah, 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 blah.
Work on this right
Do
now.
what? Yeah. So it's like that aspect is, but I think if someone is that way in their work, this could be very like disorienting. That whole thinking you have this day and then all of a sudden it blows up and you have this
totally
day.
Changes. Yeah. And it's important to realize that, clients have lives. We all have our lives. Like, just because somebody needs to late cancel or change their schedule doesn't mean they don't care about their session. I mean, sometimes people are not really prioritizing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's
not personal.
Easy. It's not personal. Yeah. It's easy to get annoyed by it and take it personally. And it's important to just realize, like, you know what? We're all trying to just live our lives. So we're trying to schedule our schedule of clients. The clients are trying to schedule 1,000 doctor's appointments for all their kids and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's, just not taking it personally, as clients have to change, because they will, and they will constantly. And we have 30 different people to take care of all the time.
Yeah. That's another aspect to think about. Yeah. Cause you're dealing with 30 different people's schedule.
Yeah.
So it's not just your schedule. You're dealing with each client having all their stuff.
Yeah.
And fitting you in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that can change. In a heartbeat.
But then also when people do cancel a lot, having to enforce your cancellation policy, having to be strong in
boundaries,
what is appropriate and what's not. Yeah, and canceling and rescheduling.
And I think that's a really hard part of the job.
It's tough.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
Especially the longer you know the client. And then it's like, it just feels awkward sometimes. You're like, oh, yeah, you owe money.
Yeah.
It's like...
It can be hard to talk about money with clients.
Yeah. And especially, that's why I think it's important to have those boundaries always in terms of, not overstepping into that, coffee chat.
Yeah. And you can,
boundary.
People tend to become friends with certain clients, but it's still important that,
it's business in the studio.
In the studio, it's your business. And not allowing friends to say, oh, well, can I get 50% off? Or, oh, can I get 10 sessions for the price of one? Or,
or trades or, taking advantage of your time.
Mm-hmm. So it is very important and a hard thing, again, to maintain those boundaries.
Yeah.
Especially when you're close with a client, especially when it's a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you hit on it when you're in the studio, it's business. And I know you've probably seen it too. Of teaching is I've seen those teachers that become friends with their clients, going out and doing all these things and socializing, and then they talk about it in the studio. And then guess what? Over time, that client is no longer a client, and they stop doing Pilates because in their brain it becomes this: oh, I'm just hanging with you anyway, so we'll just go out. And then all of a sudden they're not the client anymore. Yeah.
It's okay if somebody falls off the Pilates train and they stop doing
happens
Pilates
all
and
the
you're
time.
Still friends with them. But when they're in the studio, it's also important to remember to keep teaching them and not just sit around chatting the whole time. Yeah. You can chat still while you're moving.
Let's go to the Cadillac. So how was your, blah, blah, blah.
I have plenty of clients that like to chat, and I just keep them moving. They'll kind of stop and start telling me something. I'm like, oh, hold on. Yeah, just keep going. Tell me as you move, So.
I'm the opposite. I make them stop.
Just do it.
When they start talking, I'm like, I make them stop. And then when they stop talking, it's like, okay, let's go. Yeah. And then I think they stop talking as much.
Yeah. Well, if they keep talking the entire time, I'm like, okay, you
need
to
stop. Yeah.
You need to do something.
But I think, so I don't know, if you think about the realities of teaching and you're that new teacher walking out into the sunshine, you just finished your teacher training, you passed, which happened this weekend. My Jessica. Hi, Jessica. She passed. What do you think the best... We'll go with 3 pieces of advice in terms of realities of teaching would you maybe give that teacher that's all I'm going to teach. It's going to be great.
Well, I think
Which it is. Don't get us wrong.
It is, yeah. But there's all these other things to think about, too. The first thing I've told a lot of people are, like, look, teaching Pilates is maybe, let's say, 40% actually Pilates. Teaching. The other, like actual Pilates, teaching Pilates. The other 60% is all these other things, planning your sessions, the business side of things, dealing with different personalities, maneuvering our schedules, just all these things that we need to remember
and think about
and work on. But then not taking it personally when people cancel because
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and it's going to be constant all the time. People will always be changing, rescheduling, canceling.
I mean, it is pretty standard in working in Pilates.
Yeah. Working in a client-based field like this.
Anything. Hairstyling.
It's constant.
Whatever.
It just is.
Yeah.
And then...
the service industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an element that in between service and health, fitness, and it's like your schedule is based on other people's schedules, and so it's going to be affected and it's going to change.
Yeah.
But then I think the last thing would be that as a new teacher, if you start somewhere and are given clients, don't expect to keep being given clients. You might be given a few more, but you need to build your own book of clients.
Yeah, you need to do the work, too. You can't rely on somebody else all the time. Yeah. It's not fair.
Yeah, to anybody.
Yeah.
But then when somebody does give you a client and that person wants a certain time, it's like, okay, maybe you're just going to have to do that time even if you don't like it.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I would tell, well, I do tell my students walking out is like, you can't be picky when you're new.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like, when you get into a studio, they've hired you. If you're like in an employee situation or they hired you because they need an evening, someone in the evening. They have clients that want the evening, and they have clients that want weekends. They have clients that want this. And so if you go in there and that's what they hire you for, you can't then get those clients and then decide, well, now I'm in here. Okay, I don't want to do these hours anymore. I want these hours.
Right. Yeah, these hours don't work for me.
They don't work for me.
Well, that's what you were hired for.
Yeah, because the reality is, you're in that studio because they needed someone for these times, for these clients that they didn't have anybody to do. And so, I know for me, it's like I've never given up times, meaning I had clients in the early morning. I had clients late at night.
Yeah.
I never, ever in my whole teaching career said I'm not going to teach those times anymore when I had clients.
Right.
Now, if clients moved, I remember one, she was my last hang-on for late evenings. And I was like, oh, my God. And she got a new job. And she comes in and she says, we're going to have to rethink my times because I have a new job. And so I'm going to have to come at lunch. And I was like, yes.
That's nice. Yeah.
But it's like it's like you can't sit there and, okay, now I've got this, so I'm going to get rid of all this.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's right.
No, I mean, and for years I had people in 5 and 6 p.m. slots, and I was just like, oh, I really don't want to do those times anymore. But I kept them because they wanted those times, and those people kept coming for those times.
Yeah.
And at a certain point...
They depend on you, right?
Yeah.
You're their teacher. They depend, like, you agreed to teach at this time, and all of a sudden you're going to say, no.
Yeah. I mean, and if a life event occurs and...
That's different.
That's different, and you need to take care of yourself, and if... Like, you now have a kid and you can't do this time, or, there are reasons.
There are reasons.
But to just say, yeah, I'm done with this time.
Because it's the reality of teaching. It's like, it's not only, I mean, it can be, but you're really not going to build a business that way.
Yeah.
If you kind of like...
You need to accommodate to a certain extent as best
especially,
as you can.
Yeah. And the reality is that it is kind of not that 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and what I've noticed is when I've had it in my mind, like, oh, I really don't want to do this time slot anymore.
It does open up.
It opens up at a certain point. And so you just kind of stick through it for a while. And then it just seems to be.
The universe kind of goes, okay.
Yeah. But I was like, I just don't want to do this 4 p.m. anymore. And the client let it go. Like, I need to change times, like you're saying. And then, okay.
Okay.
And then you just don't fill it with somebody else.
Exactly. And that's kind of how you shift your schedule, too. Yeah. It's kind of like when those clients move out of those times that you don't really want to do anymore, then you just don't fill them.
Yeah. So it just naturally changes. And I've noticed it does tend to happen.
Mm-hmm. It does. It may not feel like it's going to happen when you're in it. But I think that was good advice. Those 3. I don't think I have anything to add to that that I can think of. Except I do think it's important to just kind of the situation you're in, whether it's your studio employee or in a club, whatever it is that that is your job, and whatever guidelines and policies and things they have set up. I mean,
you need to follow them.
You need to follow them, and that's kind of. But then that's why you kind of move and kind of figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if a certain environment with those regulations and whatever doesn't work for you, then
another one would be better.
Yeah, another environment.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah,
but it's like we're not saying teaching is a horrible thing and it's hard and it's like drudgery, because it's not. Because why would we have done it for so long?
But it's important to know those realities of the harder things. That's not our just fun teaching.
Yeah,
with not just being with our client, but there's the business side and some frustrating sides. And as long as you're aware of those things, then it's less frustrating because you know that's normal, that's natural. These are the things you just have to, it's just part of it.
It's just part of it. And I think it helps also to like realize that, and every single teacher is going through the same things, maybe in different ways in terms of the realities of it. But I think when you're a new teacher, especially, and you're going out into the world, no one tells you these things.
Yeah. You just kind of
learn
as you go and experience it.
You're like, wait, what? You're not giving me clients?
Yeah, right.
What? I mean, yeah, because I was like you when I started, and then went into a Pilates studio, my first like out of the realm of the fitness like club or private club, and it was like, I think she had 3 clients at the time, and it was like, where are the rest? Yeah, it's like, no, this, and then it was like referrals.
Yep. Yeah. Huge part of it.
Huge part of it. But I think that's good. Yeah. But I think, I like it. I can't think of anything to add to your 3. I thought that was good advice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yay. So those are the realities. And if anyone has any we forgot, we'd love to know, because I feel like there's stuff where we're like, wow, I know.
Building
a website.
Yeah. Website, social media, the business side.
Oh, yeah, like your taxes.
That's
I'm going to go in there. Like the whole financial stuff. But thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have a sponsor?
No.
Last time we sponsored ourselves. I feel like... I don't have a sponsor.
No ideas.
We have no ideas for a sponsor. Oh, here's one. Tervis. It's my water bottle.
That is a water bottle.
Yeah, it's Tervis. And look, it like screws like funky. That. It's pretty funky. It's fun. We'll put a picture of it. But okay, there... Because we all need to drink water.
We're shouting out to
Tervis. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. I guess we should have figured out who our sponsor was, because we pick them. They don't pick us. Anyway, that's it for this.
Yeah.
Yay. Thanks for listening. Our music's coming, and we will see you next time. Bye.